邊做咩啊？嘈住晒妹妹瞓覺。
唉，唔知啊，啲細路玩啩。
乜嘢啊？
搞啲好危險㗎，行樓梯走啦！
係啊，邊啊？
快啲啊！火燭啊！快手，係啊，快啲啊，快啲啊！
Fires are often caused by negligence and carelessness. A fire can destroy a comfortable home in a short time. Therefore, we have to know how to escape in case of a fire and how to prevent and extinguish one. If the apartment you live in is on fire, you should keep calm. Urge everyone to leave immediately. Close the door when leaving. Don't waste time fetching valuable belongings. Start the fire alarm and shout fire. Use the nearest staircase to leave the building. Dial 999 upon arriving at a safe place. On hearing a fire alarm, under most circumstances, it's advisable to leave the building as soon as possible. If you decide to leave the building, first check the front door of the apartment and see if there's any smoke coming in. If there's no smoke, open the door a bit. If there's no smoke in the corridor, leave the apartment, close the door, and go to the nearest staircase. Remember not to use the lift. Carefully open the door leading to the nearest staircase. If there's no smoke, leave the building by that staircase. If there is smoke, don't use that staircase. Close the door immediately and go to another staircase. If you're not able to leave by any staircase, return to your apartment immediately, or go back to the corridor and knock on the doors of other apartments until you find a safe place to wait. Remember not to use the lift under any circumstances. If you're caught in smoke, bend closer to the floor. You'll find fresher moving air on the ground. If the fire alarm sounded for a period of time, don't try to leave your apartment. This is because the longer the delay, the greater the danger that the smoke has spread to the staircase and the corridor. If you see thick smoke or feel heat when you open the door, close the door immediately and take measures to protect yourself. Use adhesive tape to seal the gaps round the door. And put wet towels beneath the door to prevent smoke from getting in. Similarly, seal other areas where smoke can possibly get in. If there's still smoke getting in, dial 999 immediately. Tell the fire services department where you are trapped. Then go into a room without smoke, close the door, seal the gaps around the door with adhesive tape and wet towels, and open the window to let in fresh air. Hang sheets or towels at the balcony or window of the room to show the rescuers your position. Stay in the apartment until you're saved or told to leave. Follow the directions of the rescuers. In the sitting room, furniture with pads or cushions is most easily lit by cigarette ends, resulting in smoke and poisonous gases. Therefore, you need to carefully check all furniture with pads or cushions before leaving home or going to sleep. If someone at home smokes, never put matches or lighters in places where children can reach. Cigarette ends must be totally put out before being placed in ashtrays. Ashtrays must be large enough so that cigarette ends will not fall onto the floor or other objects and cause a fire. Sufficient space should be left at the back and on the sides of the television set to allow heat to disperse. When not in use, it's advisable to cut off the electricity supply to the television set, that is, turn off the main switch. Never place several plugs into the same socket, otherwise overloading can cause fire. Fuel, cooking oil, matches, and electrical appliances are kept in the kitchen. Town gas and liquefied petroleum gas are used in the kitchen. Waste paper and other flammable substances such as sprays, wine, paper and plastic bags should not be placed around the stove. Any grease stains on the stove should be cleaned immediately or else they can easily catch fire. Remember not to store more than 1 bottle of liquefied petroleum gas. Kerosene should be stored in a metal container with the lid closed. Don't add kerosene to a burning stove. Fuel must be kept away from the stove or any source of heat. When cooking, watch the stove fire. Make sure that the food you're cooking is not burning nor boiling over. Check the kitchen before going to bed or leaving home to ensure that all electrical appliances and stoves have been switched off. In the bedroom, never place the heater near the bed or sofa. Never place clothes on the heater to dry them. Place the heater on a safe and solid level surface to prevent it from being knocked over. When ironing clothes, never leave a hot iron on unattended. This may result in the clothes being charred and catching fire. Wooden ironing boards mounted with cloth are prone to burning. Most fatal fires occur in the middle of the night, in bedrooms when people are sleeping. Some victims are burnt to death, but most suffocate after inhaling smoke or fatal gases. Cigarette smokers should never smoke in bed. The best way of preventing fire is to abstain from smoking totally. Remember, a fire is most easily caused by a burning mattress. In the corridor, incense and paper money should be burnt in a metal container. Thereafter, the fire must be completely put out before discarding the ashes. The smoke door in the corridor of the building must be closed at all times. Never block the staircase with unwanted objects or flammable substances. Always remember the location of the staircase and escape by the staircase in case of fire. If you're familiar with the design of the building, aware of the route to the fire escape and prepared for quick evacuation, then you will escape from injury in a fire. The fire extinguisher is a quick and effective means of putting out a fire. There are three major types: carbon dioxide extinguishers, water extinguishers, and powder extinguishers. The carbon dioxide extinguisher is suitable for putting out fires caused by electrical appliances or flammable liquid. This is a carbon dioxide extinguisher. There is compressed carbon dioxide gas inside. To use the fire extinguisher, pull out the safety pin, pick up the fire extinguisher, aim the nozzle at the bottom of the burning object, then press the handle. The jet of carbon dioxide will quickly extinguish the fire. The water extinguisher is suitable for putting out fires fueled by wood, paper, cloth, or plastic. The powder extinguisher is filled with powdered chemicals. It's useful for putting out fires caused by metals, flammable liquids, and electrical appliances. This type of small extinguisher is recommended for family use. The instructions for use and cautions are attached to the fire extinguisher. Remember to read the instructions carefully before use. As water is a conductor of electricity, never use a water extinguisher to put out a fire caused by leakage of electricity or overloading of electrical appliances. A carbon dioxide extinguisher or a powder extinguisher should be used instead. Apart from fire extinguishers, you may also use a fire blanket to put out a small fire. Be careful when using a fire blanket. Make sure that the clothes you are wearing do not catch fire. Remember not to take away the blanket until the fire has been completely extinguished. To understand the principles of putting out a fire, we must first know how a fire is formed. The fire triangle shows fuel, oxygen, and temperature, which are the essential factors of a fire. If there's not enough fuel or oxygen, or if the temperature is too low, the fire will go out or cannot be formed in the first place. The presence of a fuel is essential for burning. The more fuel there is, the bigger the fire. The less fuel there is, the smaller the fire. Without fuel, a fire cannot be formed. Take this gas stove, for example. When the control lever is pushed to high, more liquid petroleum gas is released and the fire becomes bigger. But when the control lever is pushed to low, less liquid petroleum gas is released and the fire becomes smaller. Of course, when the control lever is pushed to off, no liquid petroleum gas is released and the fire will go out immediately. We see that reducing or taking away the fuel weakens the fire or even puts out the fire. Oxygen is essential for burning. The more oxygen, the larger the fire. The less oxygen, the smaller the fire. Without oxygen, a fire cannot form. Are you aware that a fire can spread to areas with a fresh supply of oxygen? Take a fire outside a lift, for example. When the door of the lift opens, the fire spreads quickly into the lift. This is because there's an abundant supply of oxygen in the lift shaft, which facilitates burning. This is an extremely dangerous situation. Now let's take the example of this oxyacetylene torch used for welding. One of the torch valves is connected to a fuel known as acetylene. The other valve is connected to oxygen. When the oxygen supply is increased, the fire gets bigger. But when the supply of oxygen is reduced, the fire gets smaller. When oxygen is cut off, the fire goes out immediately. From this, we know that by reducing or cutting off the supply of oxygen, we can weaken or even put out a fire. A sufficiently high temperature is necessary for a fire to break out. Do you know that things may start burning without being lit? When the environmental temperature rises to a sufficiently high level, an article can be ignited by the high temperature and start burning. When this happens, a fire may break out without ignition. If the temperature is increased by heating up the heating elements, the fire gets bigger. If the temperature is reduced by adding water, the fire gets smaller or even goes out. Can we use this as yet another principle in extinguishing a fire? We see that we can put out a fire by reducing or taking away the fuel or oxygen, or by reducing the temperature of the fire. Take a forest fire, for example. If we remove a row of trees so that the fire cannot reach the other trees, the fuel is taken away and the fire will go out. When the carbon dioxide extinguisher is used to put out a fire, the carbon dioxide, which is denser than air, replaces the oxygen needed for burning. The fire will then go out. The same principle is applied when we put out a fire with a blanket. Lastly, spraying water on fire serves two purposes. The first is to reduce the temperature of the fire. The second is to control the temperature of the vicinity to prevent a new fire from breaking out because of high temperatures. The leakage of fuel gas may also cause a fire. When you notice or suspect a gas leakage, switch off all stoves immediately and cut off the gas supply to the appliances. Then open the doors and the windows and let the gas disperse. Never turn any switch, such as a doorbell or a telephone, on or off. Turning a switch on or off creates sparks, which may cause an explosion of the fuel gas, resulting in serious injury or even death. If the gas leakage is serious, leave the apartment immediately and tell your neighbors to leave as well. Make sure that you've reached a safe place far away from the affected apartment before calling the fire services department. Remember, fire safety begins at home.